Hi, Fantasticos. We are going to read chapter 5 called Hot Packs from our memoir, Small Steps, The Year I Got Polio by Peg Carret. I don't know about you, but I am really getting into this book. Okay, here we go. Chapter 5. On my first day in the new room, I grumbled to Dr. Bevis that the worst part about being paralyzed was that I couldn't paint my toenails. What good, I asked, was a life without painted toenails? I don't know what made me say such a thing, since I had never even painted my toenails before I got sick. Maybe I just wanted handsome Dr. Bevis to notice me. The next day, Dr. Bevis marched into my room and whisked the covers off of my feet. Without saying a word, he took a bottle of bright red nail polish out of his pocket. I was astonished. "Where did you get that nail polish?" I asked. "I bought it." "Why?" "My favorite patient says life is no good without painted toenails." He sat beside me and painted each one of my toenails. I felt like a princess. He had bought nail polish just for me. I was his favorite patient. Instantly, I developed a serious crush on Dr. Bevis. When he finished, he said, "Now I want you to do something for me." At that moment, I would have flung myself off of the Golden Gate Bridge if he had asked me to. "What do you want?" I asked, wondering what I could do for him in my condition. "I want you to get well. Someday, I want to watch you walk." He looked directly into my eyes. "Will you do that for me?" "Yes." "Good," he said. "It would make me very happy." I promised him and myself that I would do it. Somehow, some way, I would get well. I would walk for this man who had painted my toenails. For days, I had insisted that the nurses let my feet stick out from under the blankets so I could admire my beautiful toenails. Dr. Bevis' visits quickly became the highlights of each day. I tried to remember every knock joke I had ever heard so that I would have something to tell him. I wanted to make him laugh and also hoped to make him stay in my room longer. When I couldn't remember any more knock-knock jokes, I began to make them up. I spent hours thinking of puns and figuring out ways to use them. My favorite was this one. "Knock-knock, who's there?" "Wendy." "Wendy who?" "Wendy toenails are painted, de patient gets well." I'm a sucker for corny jokes. Dr. Bevis groaned, but I could tell he liked it. Tommy liked it too. I asked my parents for a radio because I missed hearing my favorite program, The Lone Ranger. They bought a small portable radio, and at 6:30 that night, I asked one of the nurses to tune in to The Lone Ranger for me. As soon as the familiar theme song began, Tommy let out a whoop of glee. "Oh boy," he cried, "we get to hear The Lone Ranger." He said that he used to listen to every broadcast before he got sick. The nurse placed the radio between my bed and Tommy's iron lung so that we could both hear. When our hero called out to his horse, "Hi-yo, Silver, away!" Tommy and I yelled too. From then on, I called Tommy Tonto, the name of the Lone Ranger's companion. And he called me Kimo-sabi, which means faithful friend. We sometimes listened to music too, or to the Archie Andrews Show. But we could hardly wait for 6:30 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays so we could hear The Lone Ranger. It felt good to have something to look forward to again. We could not look forward to a fast recovery, for there was no medicine for polio. The doctors hoped to minimize its effects, however, with Sister Kenny treatments. These treatments were named for Sister Elizabeth Kenny, the Australian nurse who first used them, and they consisted of 2 parts. The first was hot packs, and I began getting these twice a day in isolation as soon as my fever broke. For this part of the treatment, I lay on my stomach, dressed only in my underpants. Because my shoulder muscles were so weak, a rolled up towel was put under each shoulder to keep them from being too rounded. The nurse wheeled a big metal tank filled with steaming water up to my bed. The wheels squeaked and rattled across the floor as she approached, sounding like a freight train approaching its station. She put large gray woolen cloths in the hot water and then lifted them out with tongs so she wouldn't burn her fingers. She flattened the cloths in a wringer attached to the side of the tank, removing most of the moisture. The steam from the cloth filled my nostrils. I grew to dread the smell of wet wool. As the hot cloths came out of the wringer, the nurse laid them across my bare back and the backs of my legs and arms. The first time I had hot pack treatments, I thought the nurse made a mistake and heated the water way too high. It felt like the hot packs were burning all of my skin off. I screamed and cried, even though the nurse assured me that I wasn't being scalded. She said the water had to be hot in order to help me. After a few minutes, the hot packs began to cool, and they actually felt good because of the warm, moist heat, and they helped my tight muscles relax. When the cloths cooled down to lukewarm, they were removed and a fresh batch of hot cloths were laid across my back, arms, and legs. This went on for an hour, with the nurse taking the steaming cloths from the hot water, wringing them out, and plunking them onto my bare skin. Each time the cloth was removed, I closed my eyes and braced myself for the first searing moments of the next hot one. The backs of my thighs were particularly tender, and every time a hot pack was laid there, I was sure my skin was being blistered and burned. On my second day of treatment, I asked, "How many more times do I have to get these hot packs?" I thought the hot packs were like medicine. Take 2 times a day for 7 days, and then it would be over. "Oh, the hot packs continue as long as you're here," the nurse said, as she plucked another steaming cloth from the boiling water. "That could be weeks," I thought. "Months even." "Of course," she continued, "hot packs are only one part of the Kenny treatments. As soon as you're out of isolation, you will get the second part." And chapter 6, get this, is called, oh, it's backwards, but it says torture time. Until next time, kids, I will see some of you in class, and my remote students, I will meet you on Zoom. Okay, bye, kids.